As the release date for Age of Mythology Retold approaches, I've been winding down on my AoM quick tips videos. As this series has been well received, I thought I would go back and rank all my AoM quick tips in a tier list before launching a new series for Retold. For this tier list, I'll be ranking them on how useful the tip itself is, or how fun it is, how well known it was before the video was out, and how well I actually explained it in the video, whether it was clear or not. This doesn't mark a definite end to the quick tip series. I may still do a few before Retold, but when Retold's out I will absolutely be ramping it back up. Let's get into it. So number 1 on the tier list is perfect farms. This was one where I hadn't made a YouTube video and I just wanted to get one out of what is something that's not very controversial, that's a nice quick tip that I can get out here and let everybody know. So this is how to make perfect farms. It's probably pretty well known anyway, and it doesn't give too much of a boost. I mean, not that I've probably tested it anyway. You basically do it so that you don't have any gaps around your town center. It looks nice, and you don't have as much walking time as if you place them randomly. It obviously takes a bit more time to set up than if you were to just randomly shift click, and it's probably a mid-tier tip. It's kind of useful, but if you don't do it, it's not a big deal. So next up, we'll move on to the first real tip that I wanted to make. So this is a tip that I made myself. I'd never seen anybody talk about it, but basically, if you play Egyptian, what happens is your first villager comes out to gold to build a mining camp. The second villager has a chance to get made, get the 10 gold to drop off before the mining camp's finished. And this is just really frustrating because they build really slow. So what you can do is send the second villager to also build, but then you get the gold in slower and it isn't as efficient. So what I always did was I let the villager go and tap a few times with the hammer for 3 taps-ish, and then go on to gold, and they never have to walk back. So this is something that I really wanted to share, as it's just something that I've always done, and it isn't an S tier tip, but I find it really useful. You can just watch your villager just in case they try to walk back to the town center, and that's what a lot of pro players do, is they actually just let it go back to the town center, at least from the games that I've seen. So yeah, I would say it's an A tier tip. Number three is the hunting dogs kind of glitch. So if you didn't know, if you shift click your tower and then your granary, you can build hunting dogs before your granary is built. It doesn't actually start before the granary is built, but it starts researching the second that it's built. You don't gain much by this, and if anything, it's more of a hindrance, because if I don't do this, then I just forget, and you don't really gain anything by it. And there's nothing else to do in the early game anyway, so I don't know. It's just knows as well. At least I think everyone knows. So that is a C tier tip, I reckon. So here we go. Number 4. This is where it's getting into the good tips. So this is one where I think this should be common knowledge, and it isn't, because it doesn't tell you anywhere within the game. You need to go outside to know this, or you need to test it yourself. So what this tip is if you have a villager that gets attacked by something like a scout or anything, they will move off the resource unless you put them in stand ground stance, which is by holding Alt and pressing S on them, or manually doing it. And this makes them sit and still gather the resources. It's mainly for if you're about to finish a town center and then someone whacks you and then your villager walks off, or something like the scout comes along and tries to attack you and isn't ever going to kill your villager unless you leave it there for like 2 minutes. So it is well known amongst certain people, amongst top players or mid-range players, but people that are new to the game are never going to know this, and they're going to be like, why are they moving off? Why are my villagers moving and then their ones aren't? So this is S tier, and I think everyone needs to know this. This is probably one of the best tips, to be honest. So the next one is an Oasis special. So this is when you have no starting hunt. So it's mainly for Greeks, but also for Egyptians, because they build granaries too. It's if you don't have any hunt in your starting line of sight, then you want to gather the berries or the chickens without building a granary, and scout with your scout and hope that they find the hunt in time. If they don't, if they make a couple of trips back to the town center and then build a granary, no harm done. You lose a little bit of food, but if you do find the hunt without building the granary, then your build is just so much better. You don't waste 50 wood, and you just get a bit more out of it. I mean, it isn't the best tip. Even if you do build a granary, it isn't like you're crazy far behind. So I'd probably give this, there's probably a B tier tip. Number 6 is shift-clicking militaries, or shift-clicking idols. It works for villagers too. So if you hold shift and then click one of the banners, either the military or the villager banner, then it selects everything that's standing still. This is something that I use all the time. It's a really good habit if you want to get into it, and I would strongly recommend it. It's just really great for if you have loads of villagers around and loads of military and you don't have that easy drag on, then you just shift click military, boom, move them out. I don't think it works with the hotkey. If you shift and then use the military hotkey, I'm pretty sure that doesn't work, but you can use the banner and it's absolutely fine. I'd say that's an S tier, really useful one. So moving on to number 7, this is when you shoot hunt back. If you see me looking down, it's because I've got them on my iPad so they can play next to me. Shooting back hunt. So if you've got a granary and the hunt just really spreads out, the villager shooting it should go in the opposite direction of where they are. So if they shoot back towards the granary, it should move there. If it worked 100% of the time, this is probably an S tier tip, really, really useful. But half the time they just walk the other way anyway, and it's either just how it's coded or whatever. And it's you should do this anyway because it does help, but I don't know, it isn't really that useful because of how the mechanics work. But it's a nice idea. Number 7 goes in C tier for me. So number 8, this was a really random one to put as one of my first ones. It's the Kronos Temple time shift, and I've had a few comments even recently on it, I think, saying like I didn't really understand. This is one I don't think I explained very well, but basically if you want to go through Kronos for a Kronos rush and you want to go up to the next age, you need to time shift your temple for a certain percentage up through the god that you've picked. I think it's 63% or something like that. It will definitely show up on the screen, but it's only for Kronos, and if you're doing that, you probably want to do it straight away anyway. So it's probably, I mean, unless you're a Kronos main and you really want to transport it right at the last minute, but whatever. I'd say it's probably a D tier tip. For some reason, these aren't in order. Okay, let's fix these up because that's going to really annoy me. Okay, they're now pretty much in order. I don't know why I uploaded them all together, so it should have been in order, but oh well. The next one is number 9. This is Alt to quick garrison. So you can have a quick garrison on anyway. I don't like to have that because I like to drop off some resources and then move straight back out rather than just right-clicking to quick garrison. So if you just hold the Alt button, you can quick garrison anyway, and it's just much better. So I would say this isn't an A tip. I mean, maybe even an S tip. I mean, maybe this is well known, so we will put it in the A tip section. Speaking of well known, I mean, this is known if you've watched any Age of Mythology videos or played against any higher level people. If not, maybe it isn't. But this tip number 10 is building wall segments around your towers. So this is just using the little wall chips to go around your towers. So basically, the enemies can't get in unless they kill the wall chips, or sometimes a couple of units can sneak through the corners. But it's basically just a way to save your towers. So this is quite well known, but it is very useful. So I'm going to put it in A. The next one was a bit of an experiment. It's something that I really wanted to know and I didn't know beforehand, so I just thought I would put it together. So this is how many villagers or units it takes to build a town center during a ceasefire. So if you use a ceasefire or an enemy or ally uses one, how many units do you need to actually build the town center before it finishes? So it worked out, I think there was like 5s for most of them, 6 for Egyptian and 4 for Atlantean. But it isn't likely that you're going to get it right at the start of a ceasefire unless it's your own. So still useful, but probably not the best tip in the world that's going to be used that often. So we'll put it in the B tier, just something useful to know. This one is for all the Zeus mains out there. So restoration, if your unit is stopped, you restore your health so much quicker. And the way to do this, if your unit's attacking, is by hitting Q. So Q is the stop command. So if you just spam Q, then your Odysseus or whatever it is will get healed a lot faster. This one, I don't know how well known it is, but the guy does an awkward animation, so you'll definitely see if anyone's doing it because they're trying to attack and then you tell them to stop. I'd say it's, again, very niche if you're playing Athena, but we'll put it in A. I think that's a good tip. This one is number 13, the free wall of houses. So this is just something that if you're Egyptian, you get a lot of free buildings. Why not use them as a wall? I'd say it's very well known, and it isn't that amazing. I mean, that's just what you're going to do anyway. You want to build your houses like this for anybody as a wall. Egyptians get it for free. Pretty useful, but C tier, not really crazy one there. So this is a nice Thor tip. A lot of people weren't really sure on this one because there's not really many Thor mains out there. But if you play Thor, you need to hit 4 shots on the hunt to get 1 favor, and 1 favor gets you the pig sticker upgrade, which is the faster hunting. It's pretty useful, and it's just something that you really want to do as Thor. We'll put it in the B tier. So this is something, again, which unless you have some sort of advanced tooltip up, you probably won't know that there are units that counter siege that don't tell you that they counter siege. So what do we have here? The Spearmen, the Prodromus, Catapulti, and some Chinese unit, and the Raiding Cavalry. They all have 100% bonus versus siege, but it doesn't say unless you have some kind of tooltip. So I'm going to put this in A because I think a lot of people wouldn't know that. I certainly didn't know it for quite a long time, so definitely useful one there. Oh, apparently I have these in a different order. So apparently this is number 16 rather than 17. So we're going for the dodging arrows. So fast units can dodge arrows. This is something where I don't think I knew how it worked at the time, or I didn't know fully. Basically, I said over a certain speed can dodge arrows, but over that certain speed can dodge certain arrows. So above 5 speed can dodge the chariot archers, but can't dodge priests that have a higher track rating. So I think this one for me it's useful, but for me I could have explained it better. I could have looked up a bit more about how it worked. It's a useful tip probably if I explain it properly, but I explain it pretty badly. So I'll put it in the C tier. This one did really well though. I think just with the animations of him moving along on his Pegasus, people liked. So now we go for 17 that I've written as 16. This is the quick eject button. So just like there's Alt to get in the building, there's also a quick eject button. I believe it's N by default, which is why I've got the N here. It's just another thing which saves some time. Rather than having to click, say if you have 5 different types of units, you can just press N, gets them all out. Just right up there with everything else. It's just things that, unless you look at the hotkeys, you're not going to know that this exists. It doesn't tell you anywhere. So these are the tips that I wanted to bring to the table. The next one, Son of Osiris Micro. I think this is the top viewed short currently, 100,000, which is pretty crazy to be honest. So Son of Osiris, yeah, you want to keep him next to buildings or next to siege towers to garrison him in. There's a lot of comments saying also rocks too, which is very true. If you're playing against someone like Norse, you can put him in a rock. And I think that's why I will mark it down slightly, is because, first of all, I think a lot of people know this anyway, but it's just something I wanted to share. But also I could have added rocks in there, which is why I'll put him in the B tier. It's a good tip. If I'd have added the rocks in and maybe explained it a little bit better, it could have been a bit higher. What are we next? We are on to making sure that your idle villager is on a good hotkey. This is a pretty decent tip because I think it's on comma or full stop by default, which is pretty dumb because your hand is nowhere near there, or it isn't if you're doing a QWERTY kind of setup. So moving it to something like the mouse button or spacebar or one of the buttons which is close to your hand is a pretty good idea. I'll give this an A tier tip. I think that's a pretty good one. Now, the boats. What are the boat differences? I think this could have been a good tip, but I think I absolutely butchered it. I left out quite a lot of things, like the Norse can have them garrisoned in. Can garrison units, sorry. And I said that one of them was the default, and I think I was wrong. So yeah, probably would have been useful, but I just completely messed that one up. I don't know. Don't know why. But the next one is speed walking. So speed walking is quite an advanced tip. It's you can make units that are slow move faster for a short amount of time. And to be honest, I think this one was one of my more well explained tips. I think when I got past number 20, I was moving away from the tips on the shorts have to be really fast. Like in the first ones, I'm speaking so quick. Whereas I slowed it down to normal talking speed later on. I think I just tried to copy the TikTok guys that just speak really quick, even though I really hate those. So just, yeah, we wanted to, we wanted to be a bit more normal. But speed walking, straight in the S tier. If you don't know how to do it, I really recommend watching that one because it is a very useful thing to know. Okay, number 22, Frost Giants. I just said Frost Giant to OP, and I got a lot of comments saying, no, they're not. Medusa exists better than a Frost Giant, whatever. But I'm saying, as a heroic age unit, myth unit, surely there's nothing better than a Frost Giant. At least against a Frost Giant, anyway. Even something else like a Battle Boar. Yeah, it's great, but Frost Giant, in a 1v1 beats it. And people didn't like that I called it OP. I planned a whole series about things that I was going to call OP, which I stopped because of that. People did not like it, but no, I was just about to put that S tier. No, I don't know, just a silly video saying something's OP, but I still stand by it. Frost Giants are probably the most broken myth unit in their respective age. Obviously, Fire Giants and whatever's are better, but in their age, Frost Giants. So no, at number 23, this is where Hades and Poseidon can just get the 2 favor that they need for their hero and then go on the gold mine when they're going up to the classical age. This is basically so you get more resources. This is something that I do think is useful, but you also need to find a point to put them back on favor because then you just end up not having any. So this is another one that I think is probably the second most viewed. Maybe that's almost at 100,000 now as well. But I think it's definitely useful, but I should have had something in there about bringing the villager back, because it is something that when I started doing this, I realized I wasn't putting the villager back, and if I would have just left him on, yeah, my town center would have been up slightly later, but then I wouldn't have not had favor when I need it. So useful, maybe it could have been higher, but I needed to explain it a little bit better. So this is Valor. Number 24. This is moving units get Valor targeted on them over ones that are standing still. This is a pretty much a game changer because otherwise you would have to just hope that you're next to a building that you can garrison them in or whatever. And yeah, I'd say this is S tier. It just saves so much time. It's a really good thing to know. Rather than just thinking it's random and then getting annoyed if you just move 3 units plus the villager that you want. Yeah, why not? Straight out the top drawer, that one. That's a solid one. Number 25, what's this? Manors. Oh, this is building manors next to gold mines. This is an Atlantean player you should do anyway. If you watch anybody, any recorded games, they're all doing it. If you're facing an Atlantean player, they're all doing it. So it's well known. It's just something that I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention, really, but everyone knows. So number 25 is in C tier. Okay, number 26. So this is the Helio-poli. For anyone that says there's actually a comment here about how I say it, AOL Iron Maiden saying that I say it wrong. Now, I think I say it like this because there's a mission where you go into Troy and they say it like that. So that is the reason when I replayed the campaign for the speed runs, that is the reason that I say it like that. This tip is if you garrison archers in it, it does more damage, and your archers don't take damage, which I think is pretty useful. I also do it with siege towers and priests, not to get the damage higher, but to save them. I could have added that in here. But I think it's an A tier, pretty useful. I don't see that many people do it, so I'd say for that, in that sense, it's pretty good tip to get things like that out there that you just not many people talk about. The next one is free buildings for Egyptians. So we covered the houses earlier. For some reason, I wanted to do this in a separate video. So Armory and Market are both free. But they take ages to build, which is the caveat of it. Yes, they're free, but they take ages to build. So the issue that I have when I play Egyptian, which is most of the time, is if you don't build your armory as soon as you go up to the next stage, you end up chucking your Pharaoh and like 10 villagers on it to get it up so you can advance to the next stage. And this tip was saying when you go up to the next stage, know that that's the first thing that you need to do, which is pretty useful, to be honest. There wasn't cool visuals to go along with it, so this was never really going to do very well. It was just someone watching the markets go up. But I'd say it's pretty useful. I mean, if you have a good build, you can know to do that anyway. But I'd say it's just a B tier, I think. So this one is Kronos Focus. So this is one of the only Voobly exclusive ones, which I shouldn't have ever done because the Age of Mythology player base is split, and showing somebody a tip which they might not be able to use in their version of the game was pretty dumb. So there's two of them like this, and for that reason, it's quite useful. It's quite a good thing to know if you play Voobly and you play Kronos. It's a very good way to get more scouting done, but I'm going to put it in D tier because I just shouldn't have done exclusive ones. I think I realised that later on and didn't do one after that. There is one more coming up though, and spoiler for that one. So this guy always wants to talk about how much hunt or how to hunt. Sorry, this is something again that I do a lot is overshoot the hunt because the villagers can miss and it's really frustrating. This one can probably go higher than the shooting them in. So I think shooting them in was in C tier. This one is if there's one close and it takes 2 arrows to kill the elk or whatever it is, use 3. And if one misses, you're absolutely fine. If 2 miss, then you're just, you can't really play around that. So more useful. A lot of my tips are to do with the early game. I'm realizing that. Where are we? We are on number 30, Wonders. So Egyptian Wonders can go up way quicker than any others because they have a Pharaoh. So if you start your Wonder as a Greek player and I don't know, 30 seconds later, I decide to do mine. I have the same amount of villagers, but a Pharaoh, mine's going up quicker. It's just something that you would need to play around if you're doing it, I guess. I don't know whether you can play around it, but it's just something to bear in mind. And it's not many games get that far, but just something to keep in the back of your mind. So C tier, pretty good. Well, okay, C tier isn't pretty good. So this one is Enemy Gold Mines. This is something that I started to do, and I thought this could be pretty useful for other people. So if you use the tip from earlier, which is shift click the military, and you have a unit stood on a gold mine waiting for someone to come, then that unit will run away and come back to be part of your army, which is obviously very annoying. So if you use the patrol feature, then that unit won't be part of the select all military. And yeah, that is basically the tip. I would say that's S tier. I didn't see it talked about before. Maybe it is known. Maybe it is something that other people do, but it's something that I really like to do. So S tier. Even if other people talk about it, it's fine. S tier. This is 32 Atlantean getting a clean advance time. Atlanteans, because 1 citizen equals 3 villagers, it can be pretty clunky to get up to the next stage. So there are some times where you'll be 5 to 10 seconds out, and if you just move a pig over to the wood line or the gold mine and get them gather it after your temple's up, you just basically get the cleaner advance time, and it just makes everything better. I'd say it's probably A tier. It's really good if you're an Atlantean player and you're wondering why you're always off and you're 435 instead of a 430. It isn't on every map. On the high hunt maps, obviously, you really don't need this. Number 33 is the Colossus. So this, people really didn't know this. Obviously, because they don't do a good job of saying in the original tooltips. If you have the advanced tooltips, then I guess it says it in there. But Colossus can eat gold or wood trees. That's it, trees, tree lines, to get health back. So this is just something that's a little quirky thing to know. It isn't always useful. It's more you can eat your opponent's resources and also tank. Like when they're eating the gold mine, the regen is ridiculous. It's so high. It's way higher than it should be, and you need so many units to actually take it out. This did very well too. I want to put it. I don't want to put it S tier because it isn't usable for everybody, but apparently not that many people knew about it. So I'm going to go A tier. And it's just a pretty cool thing to know. Speaking of cool things to know, this is the Hades Shades. So if you're in a big fight and you don't have a temple up, the Hades Shades spawn, I think, after every 5 deaths, or they have a 20% chance, one of the two. So if you have a big fight without a temple, and then you build your temple up afterwards, everything that should have been a Hades Shade will all spawn at once, which is pretty ridiculous. It's more funny than anything. I don't think it is that useful unless you're going for one crazy push all in. Maybe it is. It's just something funny. It's going to go in the B tier. It's just it's not really usable, but funny. Number 35 is, again, something that not many people talk about, is how walls work. So walls in Age of Mythology are dumb. They are, if you attack one and then you attack the segment next to it, it will get the wall down to exactly what the health is of the wall next to it. So if you do a big long wall, something has 1 HP in the middle, then you have an archer attack each one of this really, really long wall. They will all be at 1 HP, and then the next archer shot will take it out. So I'm going to put this in S tier because people were very surprised that this is how it actually works. So I was glad to share that. Number 36. Number 36 is the Traitor Vortex. So this is just a fun combo. It doesn't happen very often, but if you can get something to garrison in, like a siege tower, then you can bring your villagers over for the Vortex when civilian units shouldn't move over. But it's just a fun little quirky thing. It's not going to happen very often, so I'll put it down. It's fun. I don't know whether I said that fun moves it up a little bit, but I'm going to put it in B tier. Screw it. Doesn't matter. 37. 37 is the Classical Age Siege. So most Siege is unlocked in the Heroic and Mythic Age, but there are some units that are Classical Age Siege. They are Zeus hoplites or certain Myth units, most Myth units to be honest. So it was just saying that if you want to siege down in the Classical Age, you need these certain units. I think it is useful. It's useful to know that the enemy can do it, that you can do it. I'm just going to put it in B tier. 38 hero bonuses. Now, when I was doing this, I didn't realize how much of a bonus they actually get when you do a side-by-side. So I've got here the Pharaoh and the Slinger, where the Pharaoh starts off with less armor and then ends up with more. What it basically is as you go up through the ages, heroes get more stats. The Egyptian ones also get more range. I think that one is definitely known, but heroes also gain more bonus off of armory upgrades. So if you get iron weapons, mail and shields, then you'll get a big bonus over a normal unit. I'm going to put this in the A tier. I think it's really, really useful to know, and you can do some crazy strats with heroes if you get a lot of armory upgrades. The next one, number 39. So when I was talking about the focus number 28 earlier, where it was Voobly exclusive, this is something where it's like a bug that happens only on Voobly, and I didn't realize because I don't play Extended Edition online too often because it's really laggy, and I just don't enjoy the lag. So I didn't know. So I'm going to put it in the D tier because if I'd have known that, there would have been no point to do this video because it's only relevant for people that play Voobly, and that shouldn't be how these videos work. Number 40. So this is late game Norse. It's basically saying that once you've got all your upgrades and everything, you can convert some of your villagers over to Ulfsark, which I think is a useful tip in itself. I don't think I said the right numbers of everything because I'm not really a big Norse player. I only do it in my silly challenges against the AI. I don't really play much Norse online, so I think there was a comment about I didn't say enough villagers left or something like that. But it is a useful tip. But again, it was something that I didn't explain properly in it, so it gets marked down for that. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh, but I'm judging myself, so it's fine. So the next one, Pharaoh Empowerment, is number 41. This is one that wasn't known again. So because it doesn't say it anywhere, why would anyone know it? You know, this is just it's just one of those things that they're not clear about it. So Pharaoh's empowering obviously speeds up everything. It speeds up the rate of the buildings go up, but it also gives more damage to the building and lets it shoot more arrows, which was the part that I wanted to share with everyone because it isn't very well known. And the Pharaoh is my favorite unit, so I've done a lot of videos on the Pharaoh. But I'd say this is A tier. It's an A tier tip because it wasn't immediately known by everybody. And there was a little joke about Larry in there, which I wanted to get in there. There was many pharaohs with funny names, so it's just I restarted the level until until I got one with a funny name. This one is about formations. Number 42 is formations. Formations aren't really used very much in Age of Mythology, and I just wanted to share how they can be used. You still can't do the micro like you can in other Age games like AoE 2, where you go from one stance to the other to dodge certain shots, but you can do some cool things with formations and when you should use them and when you shouldn't. So I'm going to put that in A tier. It's pretty good. So this tip is about Hydra and Scylla. So how they gain their heads. The main reason that I did this is I saw people talking about it. I saw a video about how each head is 100% extra damage, and I was like, this can't be right. So I went to the Age of Mythology wiki, which is where I always use it to double check the numbers, and I got a table from there, which is what I wanted to talk about. That you actually gain the damage before the head comes in, and the head is just a visual version of it. So I just wanted to clear that up, and people didn't know, and I didn't know exactly how it worked either. So I'm going to put that in the A tier as well because it was pretty useful. Useful for me too because I didn't know exactly how it works. That one kill equals damage even if it doesn't gain a head. Next one is Egyptian fishing ships. Egyptian fishing ships do extra things. They can build docks, they can build obelisks and lighthouses. Who knew? It's only useful in certain situations because it's really slow. So C tier, just a little useful thing to know, but it's very unlikely that you're good. First of all, you have to be on a water map, and then you have to utilize it. You have to play Egyptian. It's just, yeah, kind of down there. Useful, but very situational. Number 45 is something that's always annoyed me about watching people play is when they right click with a load of ranged units and they all do this silly motion that these catapults are doing now, and it takes ages for them to start shooting. And something I've always done is move them forwards and then attack, so they all attack at once. Just really wanted to share that one because it's something that I've always done and just wanted to wanted to make people do it too because it's just so much better. The next one is a set exclusive tip, set line of sight for the priests. So if you've ever played set and you find an animal, you right click to do the conversion of it on it, and then they go into the black fog. Well, you're going to have to start again. And something that annoys me, so something that I do is do a little circle with the priest around it, or I make the hyena go with the priest because that has a higher line of sight. I think it isn't game changing, but it saves the frustration of when the hunt goes away into the black fog. So we'll give it a B tier. 47 is a tip about deleting buildings, basically saying that if you delete a building, you get no resources back. But if you delete a building when it is most of a certain percentage of the way through, you get that percentage of resources back. And a town center, you get all the resources back, no matter if it was 1% away from completing or you'd put one hammer whack on it, which I think is pretty useful. So 47 in A tier. Now, this is one, number 48 is the Tartarian Gate and Underworld. So basically saying that they have quite low pierce armor. So if you're in late game and you have a lot of archers with the fiery pitch upgrade, I think that's what it's called, where they do bonus damage to buildings, then you can take them down insanely quickly. But you have to get to that point first. It isn't just like archers are automatically good against these things. And that is something that I didn't share. So there's a lot of comments on that basically saying, why would I ever get Underworld? Why would I ever use it? Because it sucks. And I didn't get that point across. So I made it seem like Underworld is bad when it is not. Underworld is a really good ability. And I kind of butchered how I did this one. So I'm going to put it in D tier. It's a useful tip, but I should have explained it better. So I'll be harsh on myself for that one. Number 49, this is tower range. It's basically saying that if you don't have the boiling oil upgrade, then you can hide under the towers. And people usually don't get boiling oil until quite late in the game because it's resources that you don't really need to spend because the tower's normally attacking something anyway. So it was just sharing that fact. So it's just a B tier one, I think. It's not a game changer. I think it's probably something people knew most of the time anyway. Number 50 is winning the water. So this is a tip that I do quite often. So if you do win the water and you move your units away, then they will just bring their fishing ships back out because it takes a lot to actually take down the dock, especially if you're in the classical age. So what you can do is put them on stand ground stance out of the way of the dock, and this stops them from bringing their fishing ships. The visuals on this weren't perfect because in the editor, Alt-S doesn't work very well, but this was a useful tip. I think I will put it in the A tier. So we're on to we're in the 50s. So 51. 51 is the how the curse god power actually works. So a lot of people think that it's based off of how good the unit is. So if you have a load of elephants, it won't actually do many of them, whereas it's based off of health. So I showed that if the elephants have 1 HP each, then you get loads of pigs from it and it kills lots of them. So this was something that isn't that well known and pretty useful. So I'm going to bring that in the A tier. A tier is kind of a bit full, but it's fine. There are some pretty good tips. 52. 52 is Crenellations. It's just how Crenellations works. This is something that is known because it does say, but maybe people don't use it properly or don't know fully how it works, that it gains bonus damage versus cavalry, which is massive. But I'd say it's well known for the most part because the game does tell you. But I'll put that in C tier. 53 is Vortex Garrison. So this is another one to do with Vortex. Vortex is a weird god power where, again, it just doesn't tell you how anything works. But if you garrison a unit and then use Vortex, you can leave that unit within the building. So if you want to make a few archers, leave them at home, use Vortex, then hit N to get the units out, you can defend at home. So something that I don't think many people know, but we'll put it in the B tier because maybe it is very situational. 54 is markets. So markets in team games are broken. They get you so much more extra resources. I don't know if it's 20% or 50% or something, but it is just a ridiculous amount. I obviously showed you in the video, but I can't remember it. But you gain loads of extra gold, so it's good to do fast heroics in team games for that reason. And we put that in S tier because that is a good thing to know, and a lot of people didn't know it. So you will see a lot of these screenshots have pharaohs in because I just thought the pharaoh is a cool character. That's my favorite character. So 55 is, again, Pharaoh doing a lot of things. So what you can do is you can drop off resources with the villagers, and then that means that your Pharaoh can actually do something while they're gathering, and then he just has to come back for when they drop off, because that is when you get the Pharaoh bonus. So if you have crazy high APM, then you can do this. But I'd say it's not really relevant to even me. It is not relevant for me. But I say in there as a joke, basically, like I like to maximize the early game and then throw away most of my army because I do these silly things in the early game and then later on just get absolutely rolled. 56 is different ways to use Ceasefire. So Ceasefire is seen as defensive, but if you're against Egyptian mainly, then you can use Ceasefire to stop them getting their Migdal stronghold up. And if they don't have a barracks, then they're basically screwed because you can get loads of your cavalry out that's good against the units they're going to build later on anyway when they get their chariot archers out. And you can stop the Migdal stronghold going up. This was quite well received. People like this one and didn't think about that for rather than just using it as a defensive god power. So I'd put that in the A tier. Oh, A tier's getting bigger. Now we've got the last 5. So 57 is mummies. So mummies and eclipse is insane. Just basically is the tip. You don't always save eclipse for that late in the game, but if you do, then it's pretty brutal. Yeah, we're gonna put that. Should I put it A tier? Is it a bit of a cop out if I just think everything's good? Maybe it isn't so relevant because if you're Isis, you're using Ancestors Eclipse. If you're Ra, maybe you're using Eclipse with a couple of Sphinx early on. Use it in the early game quite often. So that is where the mummy should go. 58 is basically saying that boats versus people, boats win. And if you have a lot of boats and you win the water, you want to put them near the shore on maps like Mediterranean because then you'll get the upper hand in team fights. A lot of people don't like playing water maps, so maybe water map only tips aren't going to be as high up, even though I did put one of them in A tier. But I think this one will be a B tier tip. I think maybe a lot of people know that ships shoot 3 arrows and have more health than an archer, so they are going to be better. But I think it's useful. 59 is getting double Ulfsarks out. So this is on a map that has lots of herdables like goats and cows and whatnot. You want double Ulfsarks because you'll get so much of the map to yourself. And it's something that I really like to do on maps like Oasis. And then you can just almost win off of you having way more herdables than your opponent, especially if there's something like Egyptian where they only have one scout that has very limited line of sight. And then you've got these 2 fast boys running around taking all the goats. So I'd say that's an A tier tip. Number 60 is using the correct hotkeys, not the correct hotkeys, using useful hotkeys. So by default, the hotkeys are just all over the keyboard and it's quite awkward. So if you set them up in a way that you can either use the QWERTY setups like QWER or a grid like QWAS, then you can get used to something that's a little bit easier for your hands to move to. Yeah, this isn't the correct way. It's just a way that's slightly easier than the way it gives you by default, and probably how a lot of modern games do it rather than ones that are 20 years old. It's just a nice one to know. Put it in the B tier. Maybe not relevant unless you're going for optimizations, let's say. And then the last one is using shift click. So shift click, if you have loads of villagers, shift click just takes ages because it waits for your last villager to be done, and the pathfinding's awful, so it takes ages, and sometimes they get stuck and they'll all stand there and they won't show up as an idle villager because technically they're trying to drop off. So this is just saying that you want to split them up into different groups, or if you have really high APM, then single villagers or really small groups. So I'll put that in the A tier. So that is it for the tier list of quick tips. I might do a few more before Retold is out. I just don't want to be making tips that maybe won't be relevant when Retold is out. And I want to fully start from scratch for Retold and be a bit more structured with it. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.